video, I want to explain something about fear that pretty much nobody explains online. And I think a lot of time it's not because they don't want it, it's because people don't really know how to break it down, and it's really challenging. It's challenging for me, but I like a challenge, and I'll give it a go in this video. So obviously, if someone's got a fear of something and you say, overcome your fear, face your fear, you need to face your fear. Obviously that's the right advice, and the person already knows that. But most of the time, that's not actually enough to actually get the person to successfully face their fear in their life. Whatever the fear is, it doesn't matter about how small or how large it is. Let's just throw an example out. Someone overcoming their fear of quitting their job that they don't enjoy and starting a new business for the first time. Or somebody overcoming their fear of meeting people if they've got social anxiety, or someone overcoming their fear of asking someone out, or someone overcoming their fear of doing a public talk for the first time, or making a YouTube video for the first time and uploading it, or going live, doing a live stream, or doing a Zoom call. Whatever the fear is, let me explain really what's going on here and what people are afraid of. And I'm going to explain to you how you can overcome it and get stronger at overcoming your fears, but there's a lot that goes into it. So let's first start off by talking about the psychological fear. You know, the fear that goes on in your head, which is your imagination. So people are afraid to quit their job and start their own business because in their head, the first thing they will think of is, what if it fails? What if I quit my job and I start a business and I don't make any money? So there's like the consequences of failure, and then within that consequence, there's like a fear which is, what if I can't make enough money? Then I won't be able to live, I won't be able to pay bills, etc. Right? Which is understandable. Like that's kind of logic, that's an intelligent thing to consider. So you have a psychological fear, and then people obviously people imagine themselves. They make it personal. They imagine them out in the world trying to attempt something new, like starting a business, and then a massive group of people going ha 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 ha, laughing at them. Like this, it's something like that goes on a psychological level. And obviously, when people really think about that, they go, nah, I can't handle that. I couldn't handle failing, especially in front of a group of other human beings that could potentially laugh at me, make me feel ashamed and embarrass me and make me feel like even more of a failure. So they recluse back to where they started, and they stay with the fear and they live with it, and that makes them very unhappy in the background. So you might get away with saving face today, you get out of potentially that happening, but you don't get away from the fact that your fears will become your demons, and they will bully you. They will bully you in the back of your mind, and they will keep interrupting you in your life, in your own mind. So that's one way of explaining the truth. Now, the second part, this is the nitty-gritty. This is what really frightens people, is the emotions that comes with facing your fears, and we can't get out of that because we're all humans and we are all emotional. You know, some people might say, he's more emotional than me or she, and that's true. Some people can control their emotions better than others, but it's besides the point. The point is, we all have emotions, and we all have an emotional response to our fears, or the fears that everybody has, and some people have got their own personal fears which frighten them more than others. Example, someone who's jumped out of an aeroplane 10 times, 20 times, it's not going to be as scared as someone who's never jumped out of an aeroplane for the first time. So we've got one person who's done exposure therapy, they've got used to it, their nervous system, their adrenaline, their psychology, they've become conditioned. So that's going to be different. Same as someone who's done MMA all their life and had 20 fights in a cage, as opposed to someone who's never done it. The MMA fighter who's had 20 fights is going to be conditioned. He's going to have fear still. You know, George St. Pierre is probably one of the greatest fighters of UFC of all time. And he was the most honest I've ever seen in my life in terms of a UFC fight. He said, I was petrified every fight. I had to go to the toilet. He was pacing up and down. He couldn't sleep the night before. But once he got in that situation, he's one of the best to ever do it. So back to my original point. It's hard to explain emotions right now on a YouTube video. So obviously I'm speaking to real people that are going to watch my video online. But we all know how it feels when we're in a situation and we feel petrified and it doesn't feel nice. And it doesn't just end there. So when you expose yourself to your fears for the first time, we'll start off by saying the first time and even second, third, depending on how your body reacts to that fear and that situation can be different. And for most part, if it's the first time you're doing something new that you've never done and you know it's going to make you afraid, it's a really unpleasant feeling. So you've got the feelings that you've got to deal with prior to facing the fear. So let me give you an example. So when I first started doing public speaking, I'd have anxiety. I'd have a little bit of anxiety about a week before, but the day before the talk, I'd be worrying, thinking about the next day, and the anxiety would start coming on and I might not be able to sleep that well. Then in the morning when I woke up the day of the talk, I'd feel sick in my stomach. And as it got closer to the talk, I'd have to go to the toilet. It would cause me to have diarrhea. And these are things that everybody goes through, but a lot of people a bit embarrassed to talk about. I'm not. I'd have to go to the toilet several times. I'd lose my appetite. I wouldn't be as social. I wouldn't feel like speaking to people because I was so frightened, so anxious, so worried. And as it got closer to the talk and people started to turn up, the adrenaline gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And when I'd go out on stage, the first few seconds was terrifying, and it was unpleasant in that moment. And the stress on the body and the emotions and all of the emotional turmoil was really, really uncomfortable and painful. But as I got through it and started speaking and working through the anxiety, I came into a space of feeling really confident and relieved and happy. And then the adrenaline starts leaving the body. It starts calming down. Everything gets calm. And then there's a euphoric feeling. I kind of like the feeling how I am now. So you get to this point where the words are coming out, there's less anxiety, and then there's no anxiety. And then you do a talk. After the talk's over, you feel a mixture of euphoria because you did it, and you came into a space where you felt great about yourself and you stopped caring about others. But you also feel mentally, emotionally, and spiritually exhausted. And you feel exhausted because your body, your mind, your nervous system, your biology has been going through fight or flight. So it's a fight. And a lot of people are afraid to go through that fight because of what I've just explained, because of the psychological phobia and the emotional, the emotional turbulence and the hardiness of it and the suffering. And it's a lot for people to have to accept. And because our emotions feel so true, so when you get an emotion that says scary, unpleasant, life-threatening, run, when you get that, most people intellectually listen to it. Your intellect goes, of course you shouldn't go out and do a public talk. It's a crazy idea. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to fail. You're going to potentially risk, you're not going to die literally, but it's almost like your reputation, your identity could be killed. You could be shamed and so forth. And then you've got to live with that. And a lot of people are like, I can't live with that. I wouldn't be able to live with the fact that if I face one of my fears and I fail, and then people laugh at me, make fun of me, and I'm gonna have to live with it. So, as you can hear from what I've said, it's a very, very negative, scary, unpleasant, depressing, unhappy space to be when you're at this point. So that's why most people, not all, but most people, without a mentor, without experience, without the real hunger to do it and not to care about what people think or accept your concern about other people, people will just opt out and they'll go back to what they know, their comfort zone. And they'll do that in any area until they get to a point where, this is just a term I use, what I went through, where living's too painful. Living becomes so painful because living with the fact that you are being, you're being tormented, you're being haunted and bullied by your fears on a day-to-day basis, and that creates like a slow death. I don't mean literally dying. Obviously, it can happen to some people. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. That's why I raise awareness on all these videos. I make a point of explaining it in case people misinterpret what I'm saying, but it's literally making your life a living hell every day. And it can eventually make you feel like you're a coward, and it can hold you back from doing so many things. So already, how long have I been speaking now, right? Oh, is it? Sorry, hold on. Okay, so it's taken me about 11 minutes. That's quite a long time to explain it. So, and there's a little bit more. So that explanation I've just given you is the full explanation as someone who has faced fear hundreds of times before I even taught anyone, and I face it all the time lately, again, on a daily basis. There's a lot that it entails, versus if I just did a short video, there's nothing wrong with people saying this. I'm not saying it's bad, they shouldn't say it. It's okay. But if I did a minute video and said, guys, whatever your fears are in your life, face your fear. Go and face it, because that's the only way you can overcome it and find happiness. That would be the right thing to say, but I'd be leaving out that big explanation. And that's the explanation that deep down everybody wants to talk about, but some people are just too scared to talk about it. Sometimes this conversation can cause people to feel scared. But the reason I've always talked about fear in this manner, because when I was really struggling to confront my own fears, it was doing what it's doing to most of you. It was bullying me and silencing me and making me so afraid that I didn't want to talk about it. But then I was never solving the problem. So when I actually admitted it to myself and spoke about it, it was my way of building my mind up mentally, emotionally, and preparing me to go and confront it. And then I did, and then after. So now let's get on to the incentive of why I say you should face your fear. A lot of people don't realize this, and I want to remind you, and this is going to make you feel great, not just to make you, because it's true. Everybody's stronger than they think. We've all got an idea about how we rate ourselves in terms of how strong, how courageous we are. But everybody's actually better than they think, where most people think they're worse. And I'm talking about in the area of taking action and facing fear. And I never realized for years how much better I was, because I used to always put myself down. Well, at least my thoughts would. But everybody can do a lot more. And the human, I mean, we are designed. Look what we've gone through over the centuries: wars, famine, Great Depressions, economic disasters. Look what humanity, it hasn't been easy, but look how strong we've been. And of course, you're part of humanity, your DNA, your programming, your mind, your heart. So when you start realizing that you're way stronger than you think, and I mean you're strong enough to go through what I just described. But until you go through it, you're not really going to realize that. Even if you listen to my words now, and I'm only just speaking absolute truth in this area, you might really resonate with it, and it might really make you understand intellectually. But again, you cannot overcome fear intellectually. You've got to face fear emotionally, psychologically. You've got to physically do it, right? Because I've said before, reading a book about this stuff and understanding the book and going, yeah, that's what I need to do. If you don't go and do it, then it doesn't count. Those two worlds are so far apart. So the world of reading a book on how to overcome fear is completely a different world to you actually going and facing the fear. Because when you read the book, you don't have to confront your emotions in that way. You don't have to face that confrontation with yourself and that perceived situation. So I wanted to really give you a full in-depth understanding so you can really understand what you're scared of, why you're afraid, and how you can overcome it. Now, we don't know the exact numbers. We just say these numbers because it sounds cool, it sounds intelligent. So I'm just using a figure of speech. But I'd say maybe 90% of the time, the worst outcome that you're worried about doesn't usually happen. I'll also say this: if it does happen, in the majority of cases, and if not all cases, it won't kill you. It won't end you. You'll still be alive. You'll still be able to go on living your life, and you can have another attempt and you can get it right, even if you get tried 25 times. So years ago, I used to have this idea, this like horror story in my head that if I went and done a public talk, I would get awkward and start stuttering and get nervous, and everyone would see it, everyone would laugh, and then I'd be destroyed. You know, it would just destroy me. Funny enough, when I did my first talk, that did happen, but something great happened afterwards. So I did get nervous, but it didn't destroy me. And most of the people were actually, I don't think nobody laughed in the moment. Whatever, they could have said what they wanted to say behind my back, but people appreciated it, and it made me stronger. It made me go, right, I want to get better at this. And then I went and done like 20 talks quite consecutively after, and I got really good, and then I was like really confident. So I did it. So you see, people think I'm not going to confront my fear till I'm ready, but really, right, unless you do the boxing training that I've been showing you online, or you do martial arts, or you do some sort of intense aerobic training or fitness or cardiovascular or bodybuilding, something that makes your mental, you know, the mental part of your human nature and your emotional part stronger, you ain't going to overcome your fear with that attitude, because you're just putting off something that's never going to get comfortable until you face it. So it sounds like a contradiction. People are waiting to face their fears. They're waiting for a safe moment to go. But you could wait 20 years, and then when you go and face it, it's going to feel the same as it would if you did it right now. So the quicker you do it, the quicker it's going to be over. The quicker you face your fear, the stronger you're going to get. Now, let's talk about the value in facing fears. So for example, obviously I had fear and anxiety to do my Phyllis event the other day, because I haven't done them for so long. There's been such a long break with COVID and everything. The fear wasn't as strong as it used to be, because I've got experience, I've got confidence, and I've got that. I suppose I've been validated by a lot of people who've loved the talks, and I've also gone through failures. So when I did the event, there was some nerves and anxiety, not as strong as it was before. Handled it. After the talk, I felt slightly depleted, which is not a bad thing. It's because I gave my effort and I went through those emotions and helped people. But once I recovered, which took me a couple of hours, once I had food and rest and met up with a person that I've been dating and had a great time, the next day I recovered. I felt fantastic. I had my confidence. Maybe some of you can tell it's gone up. It's just going up and up, and because I'm doing the training and the dieting and I'm back teaching and helping, now I'm doing another Phyllis event next week, and I'm even more confident, and I'm so excited about going through those emotions again, because I understand from experience, from just doing it a few days ago and years of doing it, that when I go through these emotions that are uncomfortable, unpleasant, and there's a certain amount of suffering that takes place, I'm going to grow back stronger, happier, be more peaceful, and I'm going to have less fear, phobia and demons in my life. So does that make sense? And that's what I teach people. That's what I've been teaching for years, all these years. But now I've grown, as you probably tell, I can articulate it way better. I'm pretty impressed today with how I'm speaking. I'm not even running off a script. I didn't even practice this video before. I'm just reflecting on what I've been learning of recent, and putting the pieces together with what I've learned in the past on my own journey, and with mentoring, coaching hundreds of you in person events and the videos, and just going through the experience. And I draw on all my experiences, guys. When I first did amateur boxing and sparred, that was terrifying, and it was emotionally harsh and tough. Getting in the ring, people think the physical punches is what hurts. It does hurt a little bit. Most of the time you don't feel it because you're adrenaline, but the emotional pain, the emotions that come up in you, and that are there and fighting and moving and jumping up and down, and it's like a volcano inside. You can't see it on the outside, but everybody feels it. And then when you come out the ring, you feel drained. But as you start doing it more and more, you get used to it. You become conditioned. Then you're not as scared. You're not as drained. You're more energetic. So people are afraid of confronting their fears because they know it's going to drain them. They know it's going to be taxing on the psyche and the body. They know it because it's going to bring up things and can bring up things from the past. But it's going through this. You can't do it any other way. Science hasn't found that. You can't read books to get out of it. You can't go around it. It's only going through it. So going through the emotions and the psychological images and fears and phobias, going through that experience is what makes you get better and stronger and more confident. Then obviously you can live your dreams. Another analogy is the dentist. I never liked dentists, guys. Now I'm okay with it. I've overcome it. And it's because I don't really like my teeth being touched. I don't like injections. I don't like the drill. I don't like all of the equipment they use. It used to make me pass out and feel sick. I nearly fainted years ago. Because I went to the dentist 3 times during a recent, when we come out of lockdown, like they made me come 3 times in a row, and it was a blessing in disguise because I went like 3 times in about a week and a half. I've got desensitized now, and now I don't mind the injection. It doesn't make me faint and feel nauseous, and I can handle the drill. But when I first sat in the dentist chair, obviously because it was such a phobia of mine, the sweat that was coming off me, obviously my mind was exaggerating. I come out the dentist and I felt like I'd been in a 12-round fight with Mike Tyson. I don't know what that feels like, but people understand that analogy. I felt drained. I was whiter than I am now, sweating. It felt like I lost weight because of the stress. But the second time it wasn't as bad. The third time I come out feeling relaxed. So I've really explained the full explanation of why a lot of people don't want to confront their fears. And I'm compassionate. I understand. It's not knocking anybody, because so many times I didn't, but so many times I have. And obviously I've got supreme confidence because the amount of people that I've coached that were in a position where they're going, I can't do it, Johnny. I can't do that. I can't do it. And then with my help, they do it. And then I'm like, you just did it. And they're like, I can't believe I did it. Didn't know I could do that. I said, well, that's what mentorship's for. That's what experience is for. That's what life and social skills are. And that's what the skill of being able to manage fear and go through it and take action. That's what I'm here for. That's my passion. And I'm teaching you how good you can become. You can become just as good as I am at facing it. If you really want to, I'm not here to compete with anybody, but you can become even better than me. But that shouldn't really be a goal. It should be about yourself. But just to make a point, if you really want to, you can. So, the body gets used to it the more you do it. But one of the challenges at an intermediate stage is, for those of you that might be a bit past this stage who already have faced quite a lot of fears, even someone who's experienced, if you don't keep doing it, you can easily get scared again. You can easily lose confidence. And if you lose enough momentum, no matter how much experience you got, your confidence will be knocked, and then you're going to get frightened again. But the good news is, because of a lot of experience, you won't need to take as much action as someone who's a complete layman to get back to where you were and beyond that. But obviously this resonates with anyone. We're trying to end this at 20 minutes. It's already 23. So I'm going to do more videos on this. I know if I keep sharing it, and I'm going to just keep sharing stories in my life that are true where I faced fear, because I've got so much experience. A lot of you just think I faced my fears with talking to women, but I didn't. As you heard, there's so many other areas. I did it with public speaking, I did it with boxing, having an amateur fight, sparred loads of rounds of boxing, going new gyms, making new. I wasn't natural at all these things to begin with, and obviously coaching is a very nerve-wracking thing. Starting a business is nerve-wracking. Making money is nerve-wracking. Having to learn things like paying tax, all these things, it's scary because you don't know it. So my goal is to educate people more so they're less afraid. The more education you've got on something, the less fearful you are, because you understand it. You understand yourself and you understand how to get around it. So a last takeaway. So how does a person overcome all these things? I think the first thing for me, this is what's helped me, is you have to get to a point where you're sick and tired of your situation. That needs to become so unbearable. That needs to get to a point where you're so sick of it that it gets to a point where you say, I've had enough of this. And when you say that affirmation, it physically makes you go towards your fear. So that's not a negative affirmation. You have enough of your situation to the point where you've had enough so much of being stuck because of your fears that facing the fear would be easier. It would be easier now. It's got to a point where it's so painful to be where you are and to cower away from your fear. It would be a better option to face it. And I'm telling you from experience, from the bottom of my heart, that it would be better in the end. And you get rewarded. The rewards are unbelievable when you face your fears. And the majority of the time, you don't realize it, even if you're not doing it consciously. I'm doing it consciously. You help other people. Yeah, there's always going to get people that get jealous and envious because you're doing something that's brave, but you can help a lot of people. Everything changes. You can make more money, you can make friends, you can do so much. That's why I say when you become fearless, your life becomes limitless. And when I say, because people always criticize, you'll get critics. When I say become fearless, I don't mean someone who doesn't get scared. Of course you get scared. But despite being scared, you're able to go through it, face it, and get beyond it, and get stronger and get better at facing it. And that's so much better. Who would you rather be? Someone who was scared of everything and was a coward and couldn't face anything because of the fear of what might happen, versus someone who had fear but wasn't a coward, was so brave, was fearless, would just keep facing it and growing and getting confident. And you gain confidence, it just comes. That's probably my favourite thing. Some people might disagree. They might like the material things that come, that they can make more money or get bigger house, cars, or have a more attractive partner. Everyone, that's fine. But personally, for me, I love the confidence, because with confidence, you can achieve those things anyway. And it's not like a pair of shoes that you buy, you love, and then a few weeks later, it loses its novelty and you don't value it no more. And then the material gets ripped. You need to buy a new one. Confidence isn't like that. It's like it's your soul. It's how you feel about yourself, and it's how you act and how you feel. It's a wonderful thing. So that's it. That's a lesson. And that's the reason why so many people, despite watching YouTube videos, just become fans when they don't take action. Because they don't know how to get their mind. They don't know how to get their mind right and get that courage to physically go and do it despite their legs shaking. I'm telling you, all of you can do it. All right? Like, share, subscribe. If anyone's interested in mentorship, with social anxiety, with dating, or just with life in general, get in touch. I've got several programs. I could explain the programs, prices, times, logistics, how they work. All that would be explained on a Zoom call. The Zoom call would be free. Obviously, if we go ahead, the mentorship is going to be paid. That goes without saying. And I can see if you're right for my coaching, and obviously you can decide if I'm the right person to work with you. So let me know if you want to book that call. I'll get back to your email the latest 48 hours. So just drop me an email, and we can go from there, and I can speak on the call and see what it is you want to achieve, because I'm really committed. I'll just be straight. I love working with good people that are committed, and they're as honest as they can possibly be. They're the people that I can coach easily. But I won't work with people that have got a bad attitude, that are not committed, and their values are different to mine, not good values. I'm just gonna have to say it's gonna be a strong no. It's gonna be like that. All right. So appreciate all the support. I'll speak to you soon. Remember, become fearless.